Hey everyone, I'm just kind of floating around with videos. I wanted to do something for my 007 review. I realize my Twitter format is not the best. It's just a lot of posts, so I think maybe doing a video may bridge the gap. These are just kind of intended to be like 5 minute little bite-sized reviews. Uh, but yeah, I guess we could start here. Welcome to my 007 review. I was really initially into the idea of playing this game because reviewers and social media said it was like Uncharted but with Hitman elements, and that seemed really attractive to me. But I'm not really that into Hitman, but I absolutely love Uncharted. So I was, but that said, I think this is more Hitman with Uncharted elements rather than Uncharted with Hitman elements. I still found the large Uncharted style gunfights to be pretty fun, but the Hitman style of sneaking around, getting information to in order to get more information to sneak somewhere else, that's not really my cup of tea. But yeah, this is a game of multiple parts. That they're sneaking in mostly public spaces without the combat. They're sneaking with the chance of hand-to-hand combat that can maybe turn into gunfights if the enemy pulls out their own gun. And then there are walking simulator sections where you do light platforming that you can't fail. Then there are walking simulator sections where you just talk to people. While I enjoyed the sandbox of the sneaking sections and there is some level of variety, the walking sim sections always start off the same with you like eavesdropping on somebody, and then you follow the thread you get from the crumbs of information in order to get from point A to point B. Like for example, you may have to pose as a photographer to sneak into a media area and that'll allow you to sneak into somewhere else. It all just really feels the same, even if the game presents it as variety. I think there's only like one section of the game where I actually felt this variety. There was actual variety in a walking sim section. I don't want to give it away because it's actually pretty well done in my opinion, but I just think there's a few too many of these walking and talking sections, and one of the last ones you encounter is toward the end of the game, and it's a massive pace breaker because it occurs after some very important events, and it's just wedged between a very large climax and then the actual end of the game. The melee combat itself is a pretty basic, Arkham style affair, but I enjoy how scrappy you can make Bond by using things in the environment, like throwing bottles at a guy on the fly. Like maybe he can throw a cup at somebody and then he'd make a funny one-liner about, oh, two sugars, right? It's pretty funny. Wouldn't be a Bond game without gadgets as well. I did enjoy the gadgets quite a bit, but they give you kind of like a loadout of the gadgets, like you can only pick a few at a time. But I felt like just the virtue of it being a loadout meant you would just gravitate towards the one you liked. It really, really didn't feel like it encouraged experimenting. They use resources anyway. Like there's a bar for electricity, then there's a bar for like I want to say like chemicals maybe. You can pick up batteries to refill the electricity gauge, and you can pick up like random liquids from like window cleaners to refill the chemical gauge. So it uses a resource anyway. I just feel like they should have let you have all your gadgets equipped at once because they use a resource anyway, and then you can kind of pick and choose what's best for your situation. You're already limited by your resources, so it doesn't really make sense to me that you would be limited in this way. That's just my opinion, though. The gunplay itself feels a little bit off, and I think it's slippery, especially when you're in like cover. Bond doesn't snap to cover, but he does sometimes. I don't know, like your character does in every other third-person shooter. So Bond would often not be in cover, even though it looks like he's supposed to be, and you just kind of get shot and die for no reason. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Who is shooting me? And then you stare at this very long loading screen. Between this, frame rate dips, and pop in, I feel like there's a little bit of lack of polish in this game. I played this game on the hardest difficulty, which is purest, and I still felt the game was way too easy. And a lot of this is because the AI is fairly brain dead. I would often like kill someone or knock someone out, and then when a guy near him would investigate, he would completely gloss over the body and wouldn't call back up. He would just kind of like look confused and maybe he would search for me or something. I'm not even sure what he's doing here. I've not played, much Hitman, but I definitely remember them being smarter than this. They would also often call out that they have found me if they're behind me, and then they would give away their position when they're flanking me. And it just seems very silly to me because I would just turn around and be like, oh, just kill him. Why would you give away your position? That just seems insane to me, especially if you're flanking somebody.
Target acquired.
Wait, really?
He's done for.
Where? Oh, hi.
Do or die.
But they are at least pretty good at killing you in very large numbers. But at the same time, it still felt like I was dealing with, very amateurish AI. I'm not particularly good at stealth games, so I'd get seen a lot, but it often not even matter because I could either, shoot my way out, or the AI is just so stupid that, killing a guy in front of him would just still make you remain unseen, and then you can just kill that guy unseen as well, then kind of repeat. If there are puzzles, the game often leaves you to your own devices to figure them out. For example, there's a lot of like keypad puzzles. There was one where you had to figure out what the code is to a safe. So it was just really jarring to me when James just straight up monologued how to defeat the final boss, and he just completely gives it away. He even says it like you, like it's like he's talking to the player. It's just so strange to me. It's so bizarre. But yeah, but that's mostly where my criticisms end. By and large, I would say this game is an extremely authentic James Bond experience. The dialogue is, very sharp, completely on point. Bond has his one-liners. The set pieces are absolutely breathtaking. The women are hot and spicy. The music always filters in at the right time to hammer home a scene. You're just going through it, and it's action-packed, and just I think this payoffs moments are just really, bring it together. I think the parts I enjoyed the most, though, when the game was at its core a James Bond experience, not one that feels like it relies on references, to the source material, but a wholly new experience is crafted from people who love, know, and understand James Bond. The plot is just magnificent. It hits very close to home. I think it speaks to the follies of machine learning and the effects of AI on a very grand scale. And I just think the way it's delivered is just absolutely brilliant. And I have to give it to the characters as well. James' relationship with Greenway in particular was very well done. I was very skeptical at first with how they would do a mentor-student relationship because, that's somewhat new territory for Bond, since he tends to be more seasoned in his appearances. But I think it is handled very well. In conclusion, though, I think this is a very good game with some very glaringly rough edges, but I really want to see if IO get another crack at it because I think they could do a very good job. I give 007 First Light an 8 out of 10.
Die, Bond!